Welcome to the February 4th, 2020 Board of Commissioner meetings. Please silence your cell phone, pagers, and other electronic communication devices. Agendas are located on the back of the chambers on the bookshelf. We do have speaker request forms if you'd like to speak on any agenda item on the agenda today. And next is moment of silent reflection and pledge of allegiance led by John Rowe.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next is a review and approval of the agenda.
So move.
Moved by Drews,
Second.
second by LaCroix. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item 5 was the recognition of new employees for 2019 and 2020. We've had a meet and greet in the back and met many new employees, and we appreciate everybody coming today. It was nice to meet our new employees instead of having them come up front, and sometimes they feel pretty embarrassed. So we appreciate all the department heads that brought their new employees as well today. So thank you. Next, we'll have the consent agenda. Ms. Holly Hennies, please. And Ms. Kara.
Good morning, Commissioners. For public notice, the Board of Commissioners uses the consent agenda to act on non-controversial and routine items. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and a vote of the board. Items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at the request of a board member or a citizen. Today's consent agenda contains the following items: approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of January 1st, 2020. Items 7 through 11 are all budget supplements, and a public hearing will be scheduled at 9:15 a.m. on February 18th, 2020. Number 2 is for the General Fund Health and Human Services budget. Number 3 is for the John T. Vakurovich budget. Number 4 is for the Sheriff's Office budget. And number 5 is for the Health and Human Services Community Development Block Grant. And number 6 is for the General Fund Search and Rescue budget. And number 12 is to accept the recommendation for appointment of Mr. Chris Orr to the Air Quality Board for a term of 3 years.
Thank you, Ms. Holly. At this time, any members of the public who wish to remove any items 6 through 12? At this time, is there any commissioner who wish to remove any items from the consent agenda for further discussion 6 through 12?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner LaCroix.
I guess I can have a discussion. If these all get approved at once, just ask for some discussion. I just got a comment probably. Otherwise, I can pull one and make my comment on the other 3.
Okay, just pull the ones you want, Commissioner.
Number 10, please.
Number 10, sir? Okay. Commissioner LaCroix, number 10. Do we have a motion to approve every 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, and 12
So move.
for approval? Moved by Drews, second by DeSanto. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Commissioner LaCroix, number 10, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The only reason I pulled these is because I noticed like 3 of them were grants that are helping fund some of our programs, and I just wanted to bring light that these grants are hard worked and earned and put into, and they help supplement the budget to keep the county taxpayers' costs low. And that's the only reason why I wanted to recognize them, because you got about 3 or 4 of them here that are reaching that goal. And I just wanted to express my appreciation to the departments for going out and looking for these and helping us do the job that we do for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner LaCroix. Any other
Thanks for
discussion?
mentioning that, Lloyd.
Oh, Commissioner DeSanto?
I just wanted to thank Lloyd for bringing that up, where we're getting this money from.
Thank you, Commissioner DeSanto. Do we have a motion on number 10, please?
So move.
Moved by LaCroix,
Second?
second by DeSanto. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next, we're on the regular agenda items. Number 13 is a lien release request. Do we have? Okay. You don't have to state your name today if you don't want, ma'am. Just, can you tell us why you need the release and any other things that we need to know to help us decide if this lien needs to be released, ma'am?
Because I can't afford, it. It was 30 years ago. Uh, I am trying to get back on my feet right now. I'm currently at my mom's, trying to get all my bills paid off so I can get my own place.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioners, any questions?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Roskinek.
I'm looking at the lien release request. And there's a lot of information, you know, income, assets, expenses. Do we have anything to substantiate these numbers?
Did I bring anything with, you mean?
I'm
As
just
far
saying
as-
tax return, just anything that,
What return? I'm sorry.
Tax return or
tax
anything?
return,
I don't have anything with me. I really don't know what I'm doing. I just,
okay?
I was just told this is the step, and I know it's, I don't know, not a good argument. I just can't.
I believe in the past, if I recall, I totally see your spot, and I'm all for giving somebody a second chance. But to totally forgive it, I don't know if I can swallow that, but I think we could make that payment, monthly payment, low enough that you'd hardly have any impact. And I think Janet could answer that better than I can
Thank you.
if we do that.
We do, in October, it'll be 30 years that this lien has been on there, and we release liens after 30 years. Meaning, so, just a informational item that might help this board move forward is, again, in October, it will all be forgiven or taken off the books. So if
just
anybody
can't.
has any other information on that,
Well, Madam Chair,
yes, sir. Commissioner
I
LaCroix.
guess that's the first I've heard of that, I guess. So 30 years, so really, we could do nothing, then it's gonna go off, if that's what you're saying.
Yes. Cindy, can you answer that? Or, thank you, Miss Cindy. Just,
Morning, Commissioners. Cindy Moeller, Pennington County Auditor. And yes, there is a law in the books that after 30 years, they have to be written off.
Okay, Madam Chair,
Commissioner LaCroix.
so now that you understand that, because I had a list of questions and they're uncomfortable questions, but I don't think there's no need for those questions, knowing what we just heard. So I guess, knowing what just was released or discovered, would you be okay if what kind of motion would dismiss the or agenda item? Would you want to pull it and wait the October?
Just table or, not table, but what do you call it? Where's Holly? Postpone it indefinitely, meaning it doesn't come back up.
We could deny it too, and,
Deny it.
Either way.
yeah. So,
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Drews.
I understand your situation also, but what you're asking us to do is to get rid of a lien that really is a payment that was owed to an individual or a firm. And I don't believe you argue with the fact that they represented you at that point in time. So I have a difficult time in just saying, that we just wipe it off. But if it's gonna be removed, is it automatic then, Cindy, that it comes off after 30 years, or is there still action that would have to be taken?
We send you guys, once a year, a list of ones to be removed that are 30 years old and a list of the people that were deceased. And then you guys make a motion to approve them all.
Okay, that would be my preference also.
Motion
I'd make the motion to deny.
to deny.
Second.
Motion to deny by LaCroix, second by DeSanto, sorry. Struggling today for some
And then
reason.
just a comment, please.
Anybody have any discussion?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner DeSanto.
So do you understand that this is gonna go away in October?
Okay. I have another question then. It's over at Credit Collection Bureau. Can we pull that back here? They actually called me again this morning.
Cindy?
Right now, it's in the middle of, like, it, to their point where they're, what's the word? Litigation.
Okay.
So we can try to pull it back, but sometimes when credit collections gets to that point, they won't, but I can sure try to get it pulled back.
So can you ask me or answer me something, Miss Kara? So they don't write it off, just we do at credit collections? What happens at credit collections?
They're trying to be in litigation right now, like through the courts, to collect from her.
Okay,
So
and
at
if
that
it,
point, then.
if it's off our books, but it stays, meaning they'll still prosecute
No,
through the
at 30 years, then I would have to let them know. I would send something signed by you, because you will sign it stating, and then it would go off the books at 30 years.
Okay, so at this point, they're probably gonna talk to you until October, because we're denying it today. And then after that, it'll be off our books, and theirs too, if I'm correct.
Okay. And
Any
we're
questions?
gonna try to pull it back from there, is that what I'm understanding? And then do I have to come back here in October?
No. And the other thing is Cindy, afterwards maybe has a minute to visit with you of how it works, so you don't have to stand up here and not know what's going on next. So if Miss Cindy can maybe visit with you, or you can go up to Cindy's office, they can help you with what happens next, and that would be the auditor's office. And Miss Cindy Mueller is our auditor. Okay? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
We do have a motion to deny by LaCroix, second by DeSanto. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item 14, we'll have Highway Department. Let's have your discussion first, Joe, and then maybe they can understand, why the 30, and then they can decide if 25 or 30 is what they were thinking.
Good morning, Commission. Let's see if I can struggle through this. I don't have much of a voice. This request came to, I believe, Ron Roskinick as a letter to reduce the speed limit on Wilderness Canyon Road from 35 to 25 miles an hour. Our traffic sign manager put out a radar traffic counter to get the mean speed data, which I believe is in your packet there. The 85th percentile is between the 85th percentile and the average speed is kind of where we like to set our speed limits. The 85th percentile is 34 miles an hour. The average speed is 28 miles an hour. Mark and myself did go out and drive this road, and that 30 does seem to be pretty accurate for the area. So we would suggest a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit on this road.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner DeSanto.
Joe, there's no place to walk on the sides of the road there, is there? You'd have to basically be in the ditch to be off of the road.
That is correct, and that is the same case for most of our county roads.
Okay, because there's that particular area, it seems like there's a lot of people out walking and I guess enjoying where they're living. So I would agree with that.
I think the average daily count on that road, there was, there's 365 cars per day coming and going, so.
Thank you. Ron Roskinick, do you have
Thank you, Madam Chair.
who would like to speak?
The reason we're here today is because I got a lot of letters from folks in this area, and I appreciate Joe and his department going out there and doing the traffic counts. And based on my conversations with the owners out there, and knowing the fact that on an average, we as humans drive 5 to 10 miles over the speed limit, I would recommend the 25. The 30 might be fine in the summer, but winter conditions, you get an icy condition, I think the 25 is going to be safer, and my guess is that the speed limit's gonna be 25, they're gonna go 30 anyhow, so.
Yeah.
I feel safer with the 25, and that's what my constituents asked me to ask for, so that's my recommendation.
And humans, as we all know, are going to drive how they feel comfortable, and they're regardless of that speed limit sign that's there. You know, if we drove it in my county pickup and 28, 30 miles an hour was about what we felt comfortable last, Friday. I think last Friday is when we drove it. So there was a little bit of snowpack, not a whole lot, but
Madam Chair,
Mr. Roskinek.
there are a couple places out there, Joe, where there's corners, and if we did the 30, would there be any way to address those spots that, where you got sharp corners, where these are probably where accidents are gonna happen?
it's possible that we could look at putting advisory plaques up there. There's a whole different ball game that goes into that, with ball banking and different things that our traffic sign manager would have to take a look at.
Well, I still prefer the 25 myself.
Okay, thank you. We have the Copper Oaks Homeowners Association. Anybody representing today? Nobody came? Okay. We have a motion or more discussion?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Drews?
And my only concern, and I know we have lots of road districts, and the roads within those districts probably are different in almost every one of them, but I would still like to see a little bit more consistency on when we establish speed limits for those, especially if they ever anticipate or expect to have any kind of law enforcement in regard to them. So that's my comment.
Do you have a motion?
I'll move to go with option 2. I think that's 25 miles per hour.
Been a motion for 25. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 15 is items from equalization.
Good morning, Shannon Rittberger, Director of Equalization. You have a bunch of abatement requests before you. It's that time of year where we clean up some of these. Most of them are exempt entities that have purchased property that's not taxable.
Thank you. Board, would you like to do all these together, 1, 2, and 3, or would you like to do them separately?
I'd recommend all three, or separately. 3, 1, 2, 3.
Separate? Okay, let's do them separate.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Roskinek.
as a point of interest, the exempt on 15A amounts to $4,318,780 that I guess will be taken off our tax rolls. I just had a calculator that day, decided to do a little math, but
Thank you.
hopefully we're getting new construction permits.
Okay, we're on number 1, City of Rapid City. Do you have a motion or discussion?
Move for approval.
Moved by
Second.
LaCroy, second by Roskinek. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. City of Box Elder, 1,645.76.
Motion to approve?
Motion by Roskinek,
Second.
second by LaCroy. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Number 3 is Hamlet, 541.40. Motion?
Move for approval.
Moved by
Second.
LaCroy, second by Roskinek. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you, Jen. Items from Highway Department, Superintendent Joe Miller.
Ron.
All right, item A here, first one, this is a request to purchase 2 John Deere motor graders for the purchase price of $454,000 and, $454,200. We requested proposals from both Caterpillar and RDO, 2 of the major dealers here in the area. We only received one proposal from RDO. That price was the $454,000. Our 2020 price was $321,600 per blade. And the 2019 price was $316,800 per blade. 1.5% increase or $4,800. We'll be trading in two of our older machines, 2009, which is in Rapid City. They're giving us $89,000 on trade. And then 2011 from Wall, they're giving us $100,000 on trade. The 2009 has 6,700 hours, and the 2011 has 6,200 hours. With that, I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you. We do have a speaker request, please. Wade Eisler. Come on up, Wade. Just your name, sir.
Good morning, Wade Isler with RDO Equipment, Rapid City. Yeah, I just wanted to, I guess, thank the county first off for all your continued business over the years. We really look forward to continuing to serve you and appreciate the relationship that we've had for a long time with Pennington County and the Highway Department. And want to make myself available for any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Any questions?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner
Wade,
DeSanto.
Joe, I'm gonna give you guys copies of this.
Do you have a question, sir?
So just recently, did a proposal, Wade, for Fall River County on what I'm seeing as the identical piece of equipment, with the exception that their piece of equipment had both the rear tools, the ripper and scarifier, and the lift group included in their proposal. And they're coming up, and I believe it also had an additional attachment, a Little Falls machine. I don't know what that is, but it's included in their bid. I think the total of the scarifier, and I was reading this from some of your other information that you had in that proposal, the scarifier and the lift group combined would be worth about $18,000. Is that correct?
I don't think it was probably quite that much. I guess I'd have to go back and review that. But yeah, there was basically, I appreciate the question. I guess I'll answer this in a couple parts. The one thing being this was in 2019, so we did take a price increase, we being John Deere, which we have to pass along. That's going to be a good portion of that difference. The other portion of that is we do as a company and as a manufacturing partner with John Deere have some dealer discretionary funds that we're allowed to use for new growth opportunities. We had some of those funds left at the end of last year. This opportunity arose and the decision was made to use some of those funds to try to expand our business into some new markets. Unfortunately, we were unsuccessful, but we did feel we needed to take a stab at it. But I guess one thing that I will add is, you can be assured that we'll always give Pennington County the best pricing that we have available. I think the bid results from last spring's bid will reflect that. The county did a very comprehensive comparison between models and manufacturers and dealers and accepted bids. I guess I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think it was in the neighborhood of $20,000 to $30,000 we saved the county last time that my competition turned in a bid to the county. So,
but I guess my question is that, so what you're saying is that because this bid was placed in 2019 as opposed to 2020, that we're paying $6,000 more for our piece of equipment right up front,
and most
minus the lift group and the ripper and scarifier. So they're getting a piece of equipment with a ripper and scarifier and a lift group for $6,000 less than what we're paying for two pieces of equipment that we're purchasing.
So
I mean, a total of $12,000.
Yes, so I guess much like maybe the advantage or benefit we may enjoy with Pennington County, with the ability to reuse some of those attachments, whether it be snow equipment or rippers or front lift groups. This particular county is a user of Caterpillar equipment. They have that same advantage. They can reuse those. We knew that the only way we were going to be able to overcome that was to provide that equipment. So like I said, we reached out, we kind of called in all the help we could get at the time, and were able to get John Deere to participate in that. Like I said, it was unfortunate it didn't work out, but.
You guys know where I'm coming from?
Joseph or Joe, are you?
So this
Superintendent?
comes to me prior, right to this meeting, and from talking to Wade a little bit, basically this is funds that they were able to use to try and get into a new county that is all Caterpillar. And like Wade stated, Pennington County has all John Deere blades, so it puts Caterpillar at a disadvantage, which is one of the reasons they chose not to put in a proposal this year. They have to try and overcome that disadvantage with the lift group, the snow wings, the rear rippers. You know, that puts them at about a $20,000 or $30,000 disadvantage. John Deere chose in Fall River to try and beat that disadvantage. So that's where that extra dollars is coming from speaking to Wade. Is that money was available for Fall River, but that money isn't available to give another discount on Pennington County. I will say that I wasn't there for the proposal opening. As you can tell, I was sick, but John Deere gave us $10,000 less than even the Sourcewell pricing, which is the government bid. So they did give us a larger discount than they even had to.
Thank you. Any questions for Superintendent? We have a motion or discussion?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Roskinek.
thinking what's best for the county on a long-term basis, I'm going to move to authorize the purchase of the two new 2020 John Deere 772 mortar graders.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Roskinek, second by LaCroy. Any other discussion?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner LaCroy?
Thanks for the clarification and thanks, Mark, for the research, because I think that clarification, there are some fundings to get into a market is good information. Otherwise, you just look at the paperwork, we don't know all the details of the support. I know that was one of the things that we talked about in this replacement plan, is that we have a lot of the add-on equipments to be able to swap in, and that was one of the things that was going to save us money on the bids. I remember those discussions. So, but the clarification helps, because, you know, from the outside source, makes you have questions, and it's good to know that John Deere has some type of program that to expel some money to give discounts to get people set up to do what they need to do.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner DeSanto.
I don't, well, I guess I am kind of a hard case, but I kind of feel like we should be going back to the drawing table on negotiating with this. We're getting, like I said, we're getting less and paying more. I understand that you've got to incentivize the other counties to do business with you. I get that. I'm in sales myself, but that's a pretty significant difference in, if you add up the cost of that. Yes, we have the advantage of having Deere equipment already that we can swap out our blades and our scarifiers, which should actually reduce what we're paying for these pieces of equipment even more, because we're not asking you to throw in brand new rippers and lift groups every time we purchase a new piece of equipment. And we're buying 2 of them. Actually, we're probably going to wind up buying 11 over the next, 10 years. I would think that would lend to a much more significant discount at the negotiating table. That's just my opinion.
Any other
Would you
discussion?
like me to respond?
If you'd like, or it's up to you, sir.
Yeah, I guess maybe just to speak a little bit for clarification for the board or the public. This was a very open, transparent process, and I commend Joe and the highway department and the board. We were invited to a proposal opening. I guess I'll call it a proposal opening because when you buy off of a state contract or cooperative agreement, it's not really a quote unquote bid. But the highway department, made the choice over a year ago when they did that to treat it as a bid. Invite both suppliers, have a pre-opening meeting, make sure that everything is as apples to apples as it can be. And that was all done again. We sat across the table. We put in our proposal. They had the same opportunity that we did. For whatever reason, they chose not to participate. I guess I don't feel that should fall upon us as RDO or the county. That was their choice. They were invited.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner
I
DeSanto.
get the feeling this is becoming about CAT and RDO, but it's not about CAT and RDO. It's about our proposal for Pennington County and the proposal that was given to Fall River County. That's all I'm questioning. I'm not questioning, CAT chose not to even give us a quote. So I can't, there's nothing I can say about CAT as far as them not deciding not to give a quote. I understand Joe's explanation that they're at a disadvantage because we can't swap out the Scarifier and the lift group with what we currently have. My only question is why are we paying $6,000 more per piece of equipment for a total of $12,000 minus whatever your estimate is between $13,000, $15,000, $18,000 worth of lift equipment and ripper equipment. Yet we're paying that much more. And again, I understand that when you go and try to get into a new county, you got to give some incentives. But I think that a county that's consistently buying your equipment and has already basically let you know we're going to be buying your equipment because of mechanics' opinions and everything else that we took into consideration last year, that would incentivize you to give Pennington County a very steep discount as well. So,
Thank you. I guess your thought process, I appreciate, Mr. DeSanto, but as a business person, if I have a product and somebody wants me to buy their product and I don't buy their product ever, they're going to give me a bigger discount than someone that already has the product. It's since I've been in business, whether it's hair or our properties, it's always been that way. Do they give it to you every time? No. Once they, without sounding mean, get you hooked and you love what you have, that's the way the business world works. So I don't think they're doing anything wrong here. $6,000 for that big of equipment is still $6,000. But Joe just said we get basically a $10,000 discount from RDO already. So that puts it down about $2,000 difference what we're talking about today. So maybe I'm seeing this wrong, but again, when I do business, I understand people have came to me, and even in hair products, and they've taken the whole supply that I have away, and actually they gave them to me free. But so I've got other products where I've switched, and they give me a bigger discount just to get my foot in the door going, okay, our product's better. Please try us. You can always go back to the other, but, and so I understand what you did. And I don't think it was dishonest or anything. I think that's just the way sometimes business works. And you also said Joe said you gave us a $10,000 discount. So I appreciate everything. And you've always brought these things up, and I appreciate your thought process as well. So I'm not sounding disrespectful in what you're saying, hopefully. But I do appreciate what you're saying to me, Mr.
Madam
DeSanto.
Chair,
Okay.
just a clarification that you talked about the $2,000 difference. It's the $10,000 discount was already applied to the $321,000. So there's still a $6,000 per piece of equipment difference. So
Thank you, sir.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Roskinek.
Mark, I think that's good research, and I'm glad that you pointed that out, but when I look at that difference, that 6,000 per machine, and I call it promotion. And you only, every business has just got a certain percent of their gross that they can sit there and do this type of stuff. So I'm assuming that, you just happen to have that in your promotion funds and you apply it, but in the future, I doubt Fall River's gonna see that type of,
Correct.
once things get stabilized, so, thanks for answering our questions.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
We do have a motion on the floor and a second. Do we have any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
One no from Commissioner Santo, 4 yes. Next is motion number 2, please. Move to declare surplus for purpose of trade 2009 John Deere 772 GP motor grader serial number DW 772 GP 626293, asset number 00581, and 2011 John Deere 772 GP motor grader serial number IDW 772 GP PKA 0633079, asset 005948.
Move to approve.
We have a motion by Roskinick.
Second.
Second by LaCroy. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item B, please.
Item B, next up is our annual supplies and materials. This comes to you every year. Just, I'll throw out some numbers that what we spent last year and what we have budgeted this year. Asphalt maintenance materials, so that's your hot mix, stuff like that. Last year, we budgeted about $60,000 and we spent $73,000 thanks to Mother Nature last year. And this year we budgeted that same $60,000. Last year, our road oil, which is part of our chip seal program, which some of the commissioners came out and seen last year, we budgeted $130,000. We actually ended up spending $160,000. So this year we budgeted $175,000. And then just our de-icing sand materials with Mother Nature last year in 140 days between snowstorms, we spent $232,000. We budgeted 205, so this year we budgeted 210 in hopes that Mother Nature gives us a little bit of a reprieve. With that, I guess I'll open it up to any questions.
We have a motion or discussion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved by DeSanto, second by Roskinick. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Item C.
Item C, this is our annual construction projects. Bill, our engineer, goes through every year, and we've got a program. Our roads are chip sealed every 6 or 8 years, gravelled every 8 years, and then overlaid every 20 to 25 years. This year, or in 2019, we depleted pretty much all of our aggregate stockpiles. We have a little bit of aggregate Talty pit, which is in the wall area, but very little throughout the rest of the county. So this year, we plan on spending almost $1.5 million on crushing gravel, both basically all over the county, north of Wall, in the Wall area, Robertson Pit, which is in the Rapid City area, and then Taylor Pit, which is in the Hill City area, which we will then mix with aggregate from Benchmark to get our PI to get the gravel roads that we have. And then Antelope Creek Road, we got a lead from a landowner out there that he's got aggregate there, so we were looking at crushing there as well. And then asphalt overlay, we're planning on overlaying all of Spring Creek from Old Folsom Road to the end of pavement, which is approximately 8.32 miles. There's some question on the last time it was overlaid. Part of it was overlaid in 96, and then the other part that we're overlaying hasn't been overlaid since 1960, supposedly, is what our records show. And this has been on the books for the last 2 years, but there's just been roads that come more apparent. The last year was Radar Hill Road and 156. We would have lost both those roads had we not overlaid those last year. And then chip seal project, 27 miles we contract this year. And then we'll do approximately another 12 miles in-house. Crack seal, they're looking at 55 miles. And then bridge repairs. This year we got a grant. Last year in 2019, we got a grant of $563,185 from the state to use on any bridges that are structurally deficient, which there's approximately 21 of those. There's 4 bridges on Nemo Road, a bridge on Reservoir Road that we need to fix. Then we have to get the 164th bridge painted, the structural steel underneath that. Sonquist Lane, fall of 2020, we're planning on doing a bid letting for that, construction in 21. And then this year with South Rochford Road Bridge, we are set to do a bid letting later this spring for construction this year. With that, I will stand for any questions.
Thank you for that information, Joe. Do we have a motion or
So
a
move.
question?
Second.
Motion by Drews, second by DeSanto. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries.
Thank
Good
you.
job, Joe. Items from Human Resources, elected officials compensation level.
Good morning, Commissioners. John Morrow of Pennington County Human Resources. So the memo you have before you actually outlines a proposal to establish elected official compensation rates for 2020. It also, in the resolution, indicates the process for review. And then, again, the information that I wanted to share was really behind the scenes with Gallagher Benefit Services, who has been working on our employee compensation review. So you do have a page in your packet that should look like a little spreadsheet. So I just wanted to kind of explain what that was, the data. So the information on the upper left-hand side of that spreadsheet is the current compensation rates for our folks in position by position. So again, auditor, register of deeds, sheriff, state attorney, and treasurer. The information in the upper right area of that indicates, if you look at the survey 50th percentile, what the average rates, starting rates, if you will, base rates for those same elected positions during the survey that was gathered. On the farther right of that upper right corner, it'll say for the incumbent to achieve that 50% rate or the 50th percentile. I want to be sure to clarify that the red doesn't mean we're taking money away. It just means that they're that amount above the new base, which should be expected with people that have been in position for an extended period. There were only 2 positions actually that indicated that increases in pay would be necessary in order to meet that 50th percentile from the survey. And those 2 positions were the auditor, and in order to achieve the recommended rate there would be about $6,605. And then the state's attorney also would indicate that there should be an increase in the base there. And that would result in an increase to our state's attorney of about $4,269 over what they currently have. Again, the other 3 positions are currently above the proposed new bases. So there wouldn't be any changes necessary for those or any additional costs. So all told, the increase dollar amount, and I would ask that this, in the resolution, it actually indicates this as well, I believe, but it would be backdated to be effective with the last, or the first pay cycle of this calendar year, which started the end of December. And I did visit with the auditor's office to make sure that we could do that in our payroll system, and that can be done. So with that, I'll stand for whatever questions you have.
Any questions, discussion for John?
Do we have anybody that,
I do want to
the
point out
departments that
too,
wanna
I'm
talk?
sorry.
Yes, sir.
I forgot. So when you look at the sheriff's compensation level, and you'll see on the upper right-hand corner where it indicates 118,000, it's to be noted that that does not include the coroner pay. So our sheriff here has been kind enough and has been challenged or dutied with that additional responsibility as the coroner for the county. So that is truly just the sheriff rate, not the sheriff/coroner rate. So I did on the resolution actually included the wording so it shows that what the rates would be, and that indicates as well that for Sheriff Tome, if I can get the pages separate here, it does indicate that it would be county sheriff/coroner at his current rate. So I wanted to be sure to call that out as well.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner LaCroy?
My only comment before we take any more comments is that Me personally, I'd like a little more time to reach out to these elected officials and hear theirs, have a discussion with them before making a decision today. I think that's fair for me because I just, personally, I need the more time and I'd like to get the input and I'd like to meet with them. So that's my only comment is, I don't know if this was meant for action today or not, but if it is, then I'd prefer to wait.
Okay,
Madam Chair.
Commissioner DeSanto.
John, did you just state that this is going to be retro to January 1st?
Yes, sir. Well, to December like 28th. It's the first Sunday of the first pay period for 2020.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I'm with Lloyd. We need a little time to consider.
Okay, do we have speakers today? Because we have two that would only be affected at this time, would be the auditor and the state's attorney, if I'm correct.
Morning, Madam Chair. Mark Vargo, Pennington County State's Attorney. It seems like a moment that I need to address because otherwise we're into a new system and I'd be past that moment. As some of you may remember, or certainly can go back and look, when I filed for office 8 years ago this March, the Pennington County State's Attorney salary was $125,000. The commission, I think in response to some of my predecessors' circumstances, reduced that to $100,000. But because of statute, that only affected him for the first 6 days of January of 2013. It has affected me for the last 7.5 years, or 7 years and change. I am asking that I certainly appreciate the work that John has done to get us onto a more equitable pay scale relative to some of the folks that are comparable in the region. But if the rookie state's attorney salary is 120, I'm going to ask the commission to place me at least at that 125 that honestly I thought I was running for 8 years ago. I don't feel I sit as a rookie here, and I think that's an appropriate kind of compromise. If that salary had stayed at 125,000 when I took office, with the cost of livings that we've had since then, I'd actually be at 144,000 and change. I'm not asking anything like that, but I do think it's appropriate to bring that to your attention. And the fact that the state's attorney salary and the auditor salary both have to move, I think does sort of show that we've been the ones that are taking it. We were a little underpaid for the last few years. So I'm not asking you to make up for that, but I am asking you to, from this point forward, to maybe make that even. So
Mr. Vargo, you're, instead of 4,269, you're asking for 9,269.
yes, Madam Chair. And I do believe that I would be able to absorb both those numbers within the present budget.
Okay. Do we have Miss Cindy here? Where'd she go? There we go. Cindy?
Good morning again, Commissioners. Cindy Moeller, Pennington County Auditor. I really thank John for the work that he's done in preparing the new numbers. Would it be nice if you took into consideration the years that I have with the county, like they did with the treasurer when she took office X amount of years ago? I don't even know how long ago that's been, but do you have any questions for me? I know Lloyd would like to speak to the ones that are affected. If we could answer those today, that's fine. If you'd like to come and visit, that's fine.
Okay. Board, do you have any questions for Cindy or Mark Vargo today?
Nope.
We have a motion or
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Roskinek?
just a question for John, so I get some clarity here. So the next election cycle, the county sheriff's salary will be set for 118.
Yes, sir, according to the resolution. So there's two components to this discussion today. One is establishing the new base for those positions. And that's why on the proposed resolution, you'll see two different rates. So the first section, if you will, near the lower center, indicates the new base rates for those positions. And then the lower section indicates the compensation levels that you would set for each of those individuals in those current roles. So again, two different components. And exactly, to answer your question though, Commissioner, is yes, this would be the rates then that whoever would be filing for would be eligible to receive based upon this resolution.
I'm just trying to see how that coroner 5,000 would work out. So then if the if we had another election cycle and they wanted to serve as the sheriff and quarter, it'd be 123,000, is that,
Yes, sir.
okay.
Thank you. Do we have any other elected official, the treasurer, the sheriff, or register of deed that would like to speak today? The sheriff is here.
Sure. And like Joe, I'm fighting a cold, so Kevin Tone, Pennington County Sheriff, and I met with John on the numbers, and the only weakness I think in the numbers is what you're saying to me as sheriff. I've been here 9 years. That if I left tomorrow, the new base for a sheriff is $123,000, and so I'm getting no credit for my last 9 years of service. So just thought I'd make a point of that. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner LaCroy.
that's, I understand the base part of it, but I personally would like to at least continue this to the next meeting to give myself, or I don't know if anybody else, some time to review this, to talk to some people and actually just get comfortable with it. I'm not good with on the fly decision today because I think there's more, as we've heard today, there's more to it than just the base part of it. And those are the type of discussions I need some input on.
Oh, I appreciate that. So again, Commissioners, part of the resolution and process would include an annual review.
Yeah.
Initially, the bases had been set in 2012. That was, again, set again as the same rates in 2017. So we did do the analysis to get where we should be moving forward. What I would say is this, from a compensation perspective, generally speaking, it's not common to move people that are currently in band to make adjustments higher if they're already falling within the new bands that are set. So I'm not disagreeing that there's value to the experience we have in the county, because that's something you can't put a price on. But I want you to understand from the compensation process perspective, that's not normally done. That said, the rates that you establish each year for that upcoming year, the two parts. One is going to be the new base, if there's an adjustment there based upon data, and the second is what you want to pay those that are currently in those positions. So both of those need to be considered. So Commissioner, I agree. I think you need to have those discussions and determine what that looks like for you as a board.
Thank you, John. I agree with what's happening with the resolution today, and why that is because time served, if I have 5 more years than Commissioner DeSanto, I don't get time served. Does that make sense? I don't get, or Gary has more experience than, he's got 12 years served, so he should get more as a commissioner because he's got more time as elected official. So, I think you did your work, John. Unfortunately, some of that's not always going to come out where we want it to, whether you've been here 5 years, 12 years, or 18 years for time served. But again, as elected official, same thing with us. We don't get time served. We get the base pay like everybody else does. And we do the analysis based on what you said. And that's where we go. So just food for thought.
Any further questions?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner
So John,
Roskinek.
if I understand this, it's like me doing an appraisal. I'm trying to figure out what a home is worth. I go out there and I look what comparable homes are selling for.
Yes, sir.
And then I determine what I think that home is worth. So you went out there to Gallagher and you've looked at what comparable positions.
Yes, sir.
Is there
That's
margin for error or?
Is there, I suppose in any study, the groups that they actually analyzed were submitted by our teams here. So the different positions that were analyzed were all based upon our requests. I don't have the actual data as far as which were considered. I'm establishing what the 50th percentile, but with any survey, there's always going to be room for error. I have confidence that these are accurate. And I think a much better representation than what we had, from 2017.
I'm used to rounding, 1,000, and so I see the sheriff, everything's in increments of 5,000, but the sheriff's at 118, so I just wondered why not 120. I'm just
Yeah, so again, this is just based upon the data that was turned in. You'll see some information there that, again, completely at your discretion, how you would want to establish that. This is just data that's shown. The reason the state's attorney was rounded up $1,000 is there was a recent change in Minnehaha County where they actually established their new state's attorney base rate at 130. So even with the $1,000 difference there, it's still below what they're currently paying in their county. So that was the resolution from December of 2019 for this year.
Thank you, John.
Madam Chair.
1 second, Mark. We are elected officials and we're elected at that position under those numbers when we're elected, and we agree to that when we get elected, and then we get compensation, whatever, 2% increase or different things, and some of that as elected officials we don't. So, again, you kind of know up before you start what you're getting to a certain extent. So, that's my opinion. But Commissioner DeSanto.
John, I understand where Sheriff Tome and Mark are coming from, but isn't that something that would be addressed at their reviews?
There's not a review process, I guess. I'm not sure I understand,
Oh,
sir.
that's true. There's not for elected officials.
For the elected, you as a board actually are under statute required to set those compensation levels.
Right, yeah.
So it's an annual process, and what I'm recommending is that we do that every year. So we would do research, the HR department, in the fall of the year, put forth a proposal to you as a group to say, here's what we found. Is there need for an adjustment or not?
To set the new base.
Yes, sir. And then at usually the last meeting in December of like for this year example, we would put forth a resolution then to establish those rates for the upcoming fiscal year.
Any other questions, Commissioner?
No.
Okay.
Hear what Mark has to say here.
Madam Chair, I did just want to mention, though, your comment about we sign up for, that is not what I was told when I signed up. I was $50,000 into a campaign when that shift was made. So I've never asked you to fix it, and that's cost me, over the course of 2 terms, it'll end up costing me about $200,000 in personal income. But I'm asking you now to fix it. If you're resetting it, I understand resetting the base, but I am asking you to reset that at least where it was when I filed for office.
So, Mr. Vargo, the second term you ran, was it changed or was it the same?
Nope, I ran for the second term knowing what I was getting.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner LaCroix.
John, I mean, you made a good point. I'm looking at these numbers, and most of the times when I'm getting asked to make adjustments on whether it's wages or anything else, I get the comparables. In this, I'm just getting the Gallagher study says this, but I would really like to see the comparables when it's presented to me so I can say to my constituents or to the other person, I mean, you just made the comment, Minnehaha, 130,000.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, I didn't know that. But I mean, at least I have something to be able to talk to. So personally, I'd like to see this continue, and I'd like to also see either Gallagher study, because I haven't seen it yet, and some comparables.
Oh, that's fair. It makes sense.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
The changes in Minnehaha just occurred at their last meeting in December. So the third week of December, they set those for this coming year. So that wouldn't have been part of the data that had been gathered.
Thank you. Commissioner DeSanto.
If, just for example, we were to set, let's say, Mark's rate at 125,000, that would be applicable then if Mark was not elected state's attorney next go around. We'd have to pay the new incoming the 125. So we change that base, am I correct?
No, sir. So thank you for the question. So again, there's 2 components to the resolution. In years past, you just established the new base. What I proposed here is that you actually establish the base, and then you're putting in resolution also what they're being paid for the upcoming year. So it shows or reflects their increases over the base or their actual rates that are being paid, because in most cases, if they've been in office, they will be above the bases that were established. Yeah, so two different questions, or two answers, if you will, to your question.
Very good. I appreciate the answer. That works
Bet.
great.
Thank you. Sir?
Again, Kevin Tome, Sheriff. And I think John makes a good point with Commissioner DeSanto's question. Part of what's happened is the elected official salaries have slipped because we don't get the steps and we get COLA. And some years you didn't have COLA, so we actually didn't keep pace with the rest of the county. And I was in a similar situation like Mark was. I probably took $20-some thousand pay cut from what Sheriff Holloway was making. And, you know, it's something you consider when you look at running for the office. And I ran for the office, I guess not knowing for sure what the pay was, but I looked at what the current incumbent was making, and mine was set significantly lower than that at the time. So, for whatever that's worth. So,
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner
I'd
Bruce.
move that this item be continued until our February 18th. Is that the next meeting? February 18th meeting.
Second.
Moved by Drews, second by LaCroy. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion continued.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you for all the information today, or anything you'd like to send us by email. The elected officials, we'd appreciate it. Thank you. Item 18, items from Commission Chair Gallagher wage study. Recommendations. Okay, so there's a move to dissolve the compensation committee effectively immediately, instruct the HR director to complete all compensation-related duties from Pennington County by continuing to work with department heads and elected officials with final review and approval by the board. Is there a motion?
Move to dissolve the compensation committee effective
Second.
immediately.
Moved by Roskinek, second by Drews. Any discussion?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner LaCroy.
I attended this meeting along with Commissioner Hadcock, and I appreciate the compensations committee's discussion. I think it was limited to the number of people that spoke, but I mean, I did get talks too that they appreciated having the time to be able to at least discuss it instead of being told in an email. But, and the motion that was through the committee was this. And I have to say, I usually follow along with what the committees want. But after this morning at a TIF committee, earlier in the year, the month I was asked about, there's been discussion of removing the TIF committee from the city's park. And I'm going, well, we're just a recommending body. It doesn't mean anything, goes to the council, overrides us and so forth. I had those feelings and I normally respect that, but after having chaired that meeting this morning, getting the information, reviewing it, and trying to figure out where is it now, who's going to know the information that comes from this. City council shot that down, so they're keeping the TIF committee. Sometimes not being involved, theirs is only when there's something coming up. And so it's easy to get into that mode saying they're not really doing any work and so forth. But me and Roskinek sat there for 10, 20 minutes after the meeting, having a discussion with the planner, being able to discuss what was happening, where things were going. I found it very beneficial. So I changed my mind within 10 minutes. And that's what I'm going to do today. I'm not going to vote in favor of this because personally I served on the committee, but after being asked of the compensation, I think there was some good work. I believe in good open conversations and taking people out of the workplace to get them in one area to have those discussions. I believe in that. It's a recommending body. It's not set in stone. It's not, I don't believe, I mean, I understand John has a tough time as chairman of that committee. Sometimes it gets drawn out, but I think that's just a matter of knowing what the structure of what you want it to be, and it's a recommended body. And the byproduct of what happens in those meetings gets spread out through the whole county, and I think it's good information. So that's just my 2 cents.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Drews.
My opinion is that we're not really taking anything away. The discussion that I understand, and I wasn't at the meeting, but any discussions relative to compensation can be done at the department head meeting and brought up there. On the compensation committee, John really, even though he was chair, he was essentially secretary, a non-voting member. And so I don't think that we're really changing anything from having discussions relative to compensation. We're just allowing John to do his work as the HR director in a more efficient and better manner.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Roskinek.
I'm just reading off this part of the addenda. In addition to ensure full transparency and engagement, one-on-one meetings between the HR office and the department heads and elected officials would be conducted to ensure that they were able to voice suggestions, ask questions, or have concerns addressed. Periodic stakeholder meetings during which employees and leaders alike would be able to receive timely updates on compensation-related topics could also be conducted. So it's being, if we eliminate it, it's still there in a way, if I read this right. I mean, to me, it's all about transparency, and that's what we don't want to lose.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Rock.
At the last meeting, we basically, we asked for this to be brought before the compensation committee, and it was brought before the compensation committee, and the compensation committee decided that they were okay with dissolving the compensation committee. And that was all I was looking for, was for their, I guess, agreement that this needs to be done. So I'm good with dissolving it.
Thank you. Bottom line, why we brought this forward again is for a recommending body, I appreciate that. Like a planning commission is a recommending body, but this is a little bit different. This is apples to oranges when you're taking a TIF committee compared to a department head that needs to do his job. So TIF committee is recommending, planning commission is recommending. There's a difference between recommending and having someone be a secretary or the chair of a department that he runs. So to me, he couldn't fully do his job in a sense by having a bunch of people decide and saying, well, John, you were there, but 6 of us decided to do this and 5 of us didn't, so we're going ahead and do it anyway. So I like discussions, but I still believe, like Gary and Ron said, every department head here knows that you have discussions with other department heads with your process. If you're doing something wrong with your process, meaning if you're not having recommendations that you're thinking about or anything that you're doing, there's still transparency there without having 10 people there to decide for you what you're going to do. They will probably influence him still in many ways because we have a lot of experience here in Pennington County. We have a great team of department heads. So for me, recommending bodies are good, but this is a whole different ballgame when it's a department head that's trying to move forward on his department. So that's why this was brought forward, and I appreciate the conversation at the compensation committee, but it wasn't to backdoor you. We already knew, again, there's a difference between a recommending body and trying to run your department. So anyway, any other people want to discuss? Any from the public that would like to discuss this? Okay. If not, we do have a motion by Roskinek, second by Drew. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries with 1 no, Commissioner LaCroy. Thank you. Committee reports. Commissioner DeSanto.
Attended the library board meeting last week. Things are looking good at the library board. They're going online with their new, basically, scheduling program. Soon to have reader boards at each room that'll be live time reader boards. So if somebody cancels a meeting and the room is available, it'll immediately be on the program when you get into the library's website, so that you know that that room is available and you can instantly book the room and get in. So technology, they're moving forward with technology. They will soon have the new heating system in as well. And was a good meeting. Library board is working out quite well, and they're still in the middle of searching for additional donations and building their endowment fund. So if anybody is interested in contributing to the library fund, they are looking for contributors. So, and that's about it.
Thank you, Commissioner DeSanto. Commissioner Roskinek.
Madam Chair, I invited Pennington County Search and Rescue to come up to Sheridan Lake last Saturday with SHERP, our new search and rescue vehicle. I thought they did an excellent job. I got a ride. I've never gone in a rubber-tired vehicle from solid ice to water. That was pretty darn scary. But most importantly, we got out. So, and I think there's plans to probably get another SHERP. So if there's anybody that wants to contribute towards that cause, I think it's a safer situation when they go out with these, if they have two of them, which is a practice that they use with the snowcats and other emergency vehicles. And other than that, Lloyd and I attended a TIF meeting in Rapid City for Rapid City this morning, and we had two hard decisions to make.
Thank you. Mine is, went to the Stockman's Ball, learned that had the biggest horse sale ever this year at $1.4 million. That was pretty awesome. Dean Johnson is ahead of that, and they broke the record, so they want to be the horse people of the, basically the nation, and that is their goal. The fairgrounds continues to do an amazing job with their staff, with their volunteers for the stock show. It's one of the biggest events besides the rally in South Dakota, and hats off to them. That takes a lot of work and a lot of people to get it done. So just so we're all in the know this week, there's a lot of events, and there are amazing events going on at our Christed Center. So other than that, I did see the SHERP, and we talked about that. They were in over by the Rushmore Fields, and they flattened the tires and did some other stuff. Search and Rescue was trying it out over there, so it was pretty cool to see what that machine does. So, Commissioner Drews.
So I didn't hear you call them country folk right now.
No, not today.
That's our chairman's new terminology for people who live in the country, I guess, country folk. Couple things. I did attend the Black Hills Council of Local Governments as well as our chairman. And the governor's office was there giving the presentation basically that was given to us earlier relative to workforce, affordable housing, talking about the low interest loans, Dakotaplex units and so forth. So it was a good meeting. One of the things that they talked about is that financially the Black Hills Council of Local Governments has done very well this past year, and so we're probably going to see somewhat of a reduction. I don't know what that may be, but in our membership for going forward for the current year. And just a reminder, because of our membership with the Black Hills Council of Local Governments, the towns within our county get to take advantage of a lower rate of membership in that. So Wallbox, Elder, Wasta, Hill City, Keystone can all take advantage of that. The other thing that I did participate in was the governor was out and she made an announcement at the beginning of the stock show relative to legislation that she's going to submit to the legislature relative to livestock operations. And it does have an impact on local government. It has an impact on our planning department and on potentially relaxing some of the state statutes relative to Board of Adjustment and so forth. And so I look at it as very much of positive. Hopefully our egg producers can also maybe take advantage of some of the goals of that, which go along with exactly what Lori Frederick from the governor's office has spoke about earlier too, of taking advantage of either expanding their operations or bringing in new agriculture industry into the county. So that's the two things that I participated in.
Thank you. Commissioner LaCroix.
Thank you. I know I'm forgetting something there because it's been a busy couple of weeks. I did attend the YFS Head Start Policy Committee meeting, which is always good, and got updates on that. I did attend, and Gary was there too, the Cracker Barrel. It took me a while to find that place because I wasn't sure where. I was going back to the old school, knowing where they used to have it, and it was somewhere new that I hadn't been accustomed to. So drove around the campus for quite a while before I finally found it. But that was good. I also attended kind of a debate type thing with the school board or school bond issue, and that was very interesting to hear both sides and get some information on that. Um, I think we all attended the ribbon cutting of the stock show, which was very well attended, and the commissioners were all together and dressed the same, not like today, but we wore supposed to wear our stock show shirts today, and I forgot. So last year I wasn't theme. One of the things I want to do is give a shout out to the sheriff's department because Friday night I ended up getting tickets to the extreme bull riding contest, and the sheriff's department came out for the lip sync part of the uh, clowns show, and it was just amazing. The guy behind me was the one that wanted to get into it, and he got into the lip sync, and then all of a sudden, here comes four sheriff deputies coming out afterwards, and they put on a good show, and the crowd was amazing, and that kind of rapport with uh, the community, I think, is very welcoming, and it was just amazing. One other thing I would like to mention is at one of the meetings I was approached. At the last meeting, I talked about the youth city council that's starting. I was approached by the executive committee of the youth council if I would assist in mentoring the youth at their next meeting until they get comfortable. Uh, and they reached out to me last week and asked me if I would, and also give an update on. There's going to be a two-part deal. One from city government and Pennington County government. They have government 101 class with the kids for about a 4-hour class. But I was very excited, and I accepted it. Uh, just to give a little history on some of this, this was a seed that was started probably 12 years ago through the Strengthening Families Task Force, which came into a youth group development, which was ACE by Liz Hamburg and the work of Barb Garcia and many others, and uh, went from ACE to all of a sudden the school's taking it over and turned into Teen Up, which was something the kids wanted to do, and the kids have been working on this for many years. This is their third attempt for a city council to form and have a city council. So as I say, next Monday is going to be their next meeting, and we'll be helping them out. Um, no, I take that back because that's probably President's Day. No, it is Monday the 11th. Anyhow, their next city council meeting is going to be at 6:30 at night. They're working on their agendas and they're working on what they're going to be discussing and bringing forward. So if anybody has a chance, please attend. The room was full on the very first one, but I think it's very monumental for this community to be able to have that. And so I think it's new ground and it's going to take a little while to take off, but I think it's going to be good. Thanks.
Thank you. Any
Madam
other?
Chair, I do have two more things to add, actually. One of the
Commissioner
things that I want to bring up and encourage people to attend is the Cracker Barrel that we're having at Western Dakota Tech. That'll be this coming Saturday, February 22nd from 9 to 11 a.m. So if you want to get involved and learn more about who's representing us in Pierre, please attend that and ask questions. The other thing that I wanted to mention that I think we all attended, but we haven't mentioned, they after the ribbon cutting at the stock show, we had a preview of a movie, The Stand at Paxton County. Um, South Dakota is an agricultural state. That's what we do here in South Dakota. That's our primary source of revenue in South Dakota. And this movie brings attention to some entities that would prefer that we possibly end the agriculture industry. And so I would highly recommend getting on. I think it's on YouTube, and might be showing it some other places around this area. But I highly recommend going and seeing that movie and raising your awareness of what the agriculture industry is up against, because it's enlightening to say the least. So that's something I just wanted to add in there. I felt that I attended the premiere of the movie at the Elks Theater, and it was fantastic. It was a fantastic movie, and it really brought to light some of the enemies of agriculture that we have. That we can't believe that people would want to shut down the ag industry since we feed everybody, or since we feed everybody. But that's the way it looks. So, thank you,
Commissioner. Any other discussion? If not, legislative update 2021. Gary Drews.
Thank you. Scott, can you come forward and, Scott Guffey, and explain a little bit about Senate Bill 64? We've not had, is that the right number?
24.
24, I'm sorry. We haven't had much discussion here on it. I know that you've been to peer testifying on this bill. Give us the lowdown on it, would you please?
Sure. Scott Guffey, Pennington County Natural Resources Director. As Gary mentioned, Senate Bill 24 is to increase fees for the Department of Ag to help pay for some of their programs, primarily their regulatory program, which does enforcements on like pesticide drifts complaints and stuff like that, and then also on the pesticide recycling program. Both good programs. They kind of run them in the red, and the primary funding source has been the pesticide registration fees, as I mentioned last time, which is the EPA products that are registered in the state. As Gary mentioned, I did go down and testify against the legislation a week ago Thursday, and then it got deferred. But while we kind of got a moral victory out of there, because they're also trying to increase the government fees. Right now we're fee exempt if you work for a government agency and have to get a commercial applicator's license if you're applying pesticides for a government agency. They want to increase that to $35. And they're also talking about increasing the private applicator's license, which are currently free and good for 5 years, to $25 and only good for 3 years. So they're trying to generate funds wherever they can. We were successful to get an amendment on that first hearing to keep the government fee exemption on there, and then they postponed it till that following Tuesday to take action. Well, not being there, I heard that the Department of Ag met with that Senate Ag Committee and made some deals that they put the government fees back on there. So they withdrew that amendment at that next hearing. I wasn't able to attend because I actually had to go to my recertification to keep my commercial applicator's license intact. So they pulled that, and then they pulled the private part out and made a deal to add another $5 to pesticide registration fees. So there's been some backroom dealings, and in doing so, they got the agribusiness lobbyists and the South Dakota cooperative lobbyists now against the bill because they're raising pesticide registration fees more than apparently what a handshake deal was done. So they have referred this to appropriations now. It passed 6-3 out of there, but then was pushed over to Senate Appropriations Committee. So where it goes from there, we don't know, but I've been kind of locking horns with the Department of Ag over this with some emails, and I've shared them with Gary, and I've kept Mr. Pancratz, the lobbyist for the Association of County Commissioners, in the loop. But I found that their estimation for a number of products registered in the state is low. They're estimating 11,000. And at that pesticide registration fee, they said there were 16,000 products registered in the state. And they said, well, that's a high number. They say it fluctuates. And I go, well, give me what the average has been in the last 5 years. They can't give you that number, but they told me, well, you can figure it out by looking at some funds and taking that average. Well, I came up, the last 4-year average was 14,000, so 11,000 to 14,000 when you're charging a fee, that's a big difference. That's about $80,000 difference on what they're asking. So that kind of makes a moot point on raising our government fees and the private fees. So I've shared all this information with Mr. Pancratz, and the numbers I have come up with. So hopefully we can get that government fee exemption put back in place. You know, it's not a big impact, and it's probably gonna make it $25,000 at the state, and $35 per applicator is not huge, but when you talk about a recertification, that costs us $50 per person to do. So this year it costs the county, for my department to send 5 in to get recertified, including myself, was $300. They pass this, it's gonna add another $200 on that. So it's gonna be $500 to recertify, you know, our applicators for the county. So it does make an impact. And it's, you look about those smaller counties, that's gonna be even a bigger impact on them. So that's what we're fighting for. Hopefully we can get there to where they continue to waive that fee. The other argument was, well, they want one applicator, one person, one applicator, instead of right now you might need a private or a commercial. Their argument is some government workers have also a commercial business on the side. Well, if that's the case, make them sign a waiver saying, I don't have any side businesses. If I do, then I have to buy the commercial applicator's license. And you can still have the one. So some of their arguments have holes in it. Hopefully we can continue to defeat it. But I don't know if I'll go back down there again. I think I'll just continue to work through Mr. Pancratz to have him lobby.
Okay, appreciate it, Scott.
You bet.
Last week I was on a conference call also with the board of the county commissioners plus the lobbyists. Your name came up 2 or 3 times, just saying thank you for being there. They really appreciate having somebody that is in that area working on it. Gives a lot more credence to what is being told to the legislators. So appreciate you going down and being willing to do that and keep feeding Lauren Pancratz the information. Thank you much, Scott.
Madam Chair,
Thank you. Commissioner DeSanto.
I got a question for Scott. Scott, when we talk about these fees for the applicators' licenses, do we as a county buy the applicator's license, or do each one of our applicators that go out on a 4-wheeler that are applying pesticide have to have an applicator's license?
Yeah, each person that works for me, and technically like buildings and grounds, if they're applying even Roundup around the grounds, technically they're supposed to have a license too. But like I said, right now we're fee exempt. To get that license, you gotta go take a test and take that license. But then it's good for 2 years, so that every 2 years you have to go through a recertification course that costs $50 registration to take that. So
Per person?
Yep.
And how many people do we have?
Right now, on any given year, I'll have 10. I have, 4 full-time guys plus myself that have an applicator's license. And then depending on our workload on the summer, we'll usually add another 5 seasonal applicators.
Okay. So, and then do you know how many in buildings and grounds?
I don't.
That we got a license as well?
I don't.
And this could amount to a substantial amount of money. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm pointing out. Thanks, Scott.
You bet.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. A couple other things. I don't think Janet's here anymore, is she? Janet had been the one that had come up with the idea of submitting legislation for administrative fee for processing certain title applications, which we currently do in Pennington County, but trying to put it into statute. That bill has been assigned a number. It's 1079. At this point in time, I don't believe that it's anything's happened relative to committee. Maybe up for committee action probably for next week, and Janet's probably aware of where that actually stands right now. We do have another piece of legislation that's in that came out of the Cottington County, Lee Gable, the county commissioner up there. And he has suggested, and this was also introduced last year, but it's a county sales tax. It gives the voters the option to approve countywide sales tax limited on time and scope and to save some money. This would be additional money brought in that would be for infrastructure use for counties, for, especially for jails and courthouses and so forth. I don't think we have a need for something like that in Pennington County right at the time. But what it does, what it proposes to do is spread the base. So if you pass a bond to build a new jail, for example, or remodel or expand it, that you could then, by the voters, because it'd have to be by a vote of the people, you could authorize a half-cent sales tax to try to spread that load, that tax load, to help pay off that bond. As soon as that happened, it would sunset again. If you had another project down the road, you'd go through the same process again. The voters would still have that option. That does come up in the House Taxation Committee this Thursday. And obviously they're hopeful of getting that out onto the floor and having a open discussion on it. Other than that, I don't think that I have. House Bill 1099 was another sales tax bill for counties. That one didn't make it out of the Senate Taxation Committee. That also was a half-cent taxation, sales taxation bill, but it failed it coming out of committee. There's a lot of things that are taking place right now in Pierre. This is kind of that, this week and next week is when a lot of things are going to happen moving forward. This is the short session, so they've already completed about 15 days of it. It's a total of 40 days. And so you're going to start seeing a lot of activity happening very soon now relative to all the bills that have been introduced, because I think this is the final week of introduction of new legislation. They're dealing with, again, probably 500 bills altogether. So.
Thank you, Gary. Any commissioners have any questions for Commissioner Drew on any legislation, or Ms. Hawley? She's up to date on some of this as well, so.
Madam Chair, just keep me posted on House Bill 1079.
Okay.
What is 1079, Commissioner Roskin?
That's a $25 fee for.
Yeah, out-of-state titles.
Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, let's go to item 21, approval of the vouchers.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Roskinek.
Second.
Second by Drews. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Board, 5-minute break.
Sure.
We have a motion
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
by LaCroix, second by DeSanto. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Never get so many moves in seconds.
Okay, board. At this time, the commission now utilizes speaker request forms. If you'd like to speak on any item, please complete a speaker request form located in the bookshelves in the back of the chambers and return it to Commission Office Manager Holly Hennies. Ms. Holly is to the left of our dais today, located on the lower side of the dais here. So first, we'll make a motion to go into Board of Adjustment.
So moved.
Moved by DeSanto,
Second.
second by LaCroix. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. Ms. Brittany.
Good morning, Brittany Molitor, Interim Planning Director. Item A is a variance VA 1913. This was continued from the January 21st Board of Adjustment hearing. It's to reduce the minimum required front yard setback from 25 feet to 0 feet and to reduce the western property line from 8 feet to 3 feet to allow a carport in the front yard in a suburban residential district. The applicants, Seema and Alan Ryan, are requesting the setback variance to allow a carport. We did receive information in September that they do not need the side yard setback, just the front yard setback, because they will be able to meet that. So they will not have to go through the requirements to vacate that easement. There are 4 criteria when considering a variance. I do have them up on the screen. I will just read our requirements. The staff has verified through a site visit that there are no particular conditions which warrant approval of this variance. This setback variance would not grant a use which is otherwise excluded from property zoned as suburban residential district. Strict application of the zoning ordinance would require the applicant to meet or exceed the setback for a suburban residential district. And finally, granting the setback would allow for a reduced setback in a suburban residential district, which is not in harmony with the general purpose and intent of our zoning ordinance. As this property stands today, again, it is zoned suburban residential district. It consists of 0.16 acres. Access is taken off of Meadow Ridge Drive in Rapid Valley. There is no special flood hazard area on the property, and the lot does contain a single-family residence and a shed, and this carport, and water and sewer is provided via the Rapid Valley Sanitary District. This was routed through the interdepartmental review process, and there were items of concern that came about. The highway department is not in favor of reducing front yard setbacks, and the west side has an 8-foot utility easement that would be encroached upon by 5 feet, but they are going to meet that 8-foot setback now on that side. The Rapid City Community Planning was not in favor of this, granting this variance, and that Meadowwood Drive is considered a collector street, which requires a 68-foot right-of-way. Currently, there is a 66-foot right-of-way, so if they ever need to expand that right-of-way, this carport would encroach into that right-of-way, so they would have to secure an additional right-of-way somewhere else. Staff does not make recommendations on variances to approve or deny. However, if you choose to approve this variance, we request 2 conditions be applied. And there's a photo of the existing carport, and the applicant is in the audience.
Thank you. Can we have the applicant come up and speak if they would? Sir? It's okay, sir. Can you just explain about why you need the carport and why it's so, close to the road and that kind of thing, sir?
His name.
Oh, your
Yes,
name. Your
I
name.
moved that carport, so that's inside the,
Your name, sir?
the things, the variance or whatever you call the things, stakes. It's right now, the back end or the south end is, right up against the north end of the, garage right now.
And you're Mr. Ryan?
Ryan.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Ryan, board?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner
I
Ross?
did a site inspection when I went out there, and I noticed a couple other concerns. There's a camper across the street that's closer to the road than that carport is, and down the street on the same side as the carport, there's a shed that's closer to the road than the.
Yeah.
So with that being said, there's other similar concerns in the area, but to me, it's more like a garage, because when I was there was 2 cars in your driveway, but there wasn't any car in the carport, but there was some storage boxes in the back. So I don't mind a carport, but I don't know that I'd want to turn it into.
You must have been gone when on there. I got them, 05 Mustang convertible that I normally park in there. You must happen to hit when I had it out, driving around.
I might not have seen the car, but I did see some storage boxes back there, so.
As far as the garage on there, I got 3 motorcycles and storage space in the garage. That's why the garage is not available for storing the Mustang.
Was this brought back, or did one of the neighbors complain?
I'm sorry?
Did one of your neighbors complain? It says, okay.
No, nobody's complained that I know of with on the thing on there that we've been loosely in a association there, and I sent out about over $500 worth of letters on there, and then I say loosely because the association is basically non-existent on it, and there was no, as far as I'm concerned, no of any complaints with them doing it.
Yes, sir.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner DeSanto?
I also did a site inspection too, and really my only concern, normally I don't like these 0 setbacks at all, because they tend to, if you get snow and melting, you got your snow and your melting going into somebody else's yard and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So my only concern here, and Brittany, you might be able to address this because you probably looked at it more carefully than I did, but if we do have melting and then freezing, it's really going to make a mess of that sidewalk. All that drainage is going to go right onto that sidewalk and create a big sheet of ice. That's my opinion. Would I be correct? Because that's the slope of the property, and And where the eaves of that carport are gonna wind up shedding all of their water is gonna be right there.
It could, unless, I don't know from being out there and experience that it's always possible anytime you put something in that way. It depends on how the wind blows and where it drifts and things like that. So there's always an impact from that. I think there would be concern and, maybe Joe could speak to it, would it impact snow removal and how they have to remove the snow in that area also, because it looks like the sidewalks go right into the curb in that,
Right.
on that street.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner.
Brittany, is that,
Hold on, Commissioner Roskinek. Do you have a follow-up, Commissioner DeSanto?
No, that's just a point on.
Commissioner Roskinek.
that picture, the carport in reality today is not where it's at in that picture, correct? The carport is moved back.
Correct. It was moved back. We did receive a complaint from a neighbor. Our ordinance or code enforcement officer did
You do have
receive a
speaker
complaint.
request. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
So, and upon that, we went out there. I actually went out with Dwayne and we looked at that. And when Christina was working with Mr. Ryan, she had him move it back from the street while we went through this process. So,
Thank you. My concern is there a pad on this? Like a cement pad underneath of it?
I'm sorry?
Is there a cement pad underneath of it?
Yes, there is. What I've got for underneath on there is I got some of the compost from out at the dump landfill on there and put that in there. There's probably varies on the ground, but from there to there with compost. And I also went to Menards and I got 12-inch square blocking on there that I put on top of that.
Okay.
On there for on driving on top of it. As far as for snow on there, we've had some big blizzards on there. There's no problem with the street clearance or anything in that. The stability of the carport, as you can see, there's a tree right alongside there. It's got 10 30-inch anchor bolts going in there for supporting on there. Not any particular problem. Due to Mother Nature on there with the wind and everything on there, I very rarely have to shovel the sidewalk up there on it, that it all blows off over to the side on there. So any drifting, it's right to the front of the house on the northeast side and in the backyard.
So here's my point of view. If this is okay, then I would say that anybody that comes in on this block, that they can put carports all the way down. You let one, you don't always have to let all, but it would seem it made sense just because it looks like the setbacks are about the same. Plus, you have a neighbor right next door there to your right in this picture anyway, sir, and I thought a carport was just an overhang with no sides to it. This looks more like a garage. And again, I don't think I'd be in favor, because if I say yes to you, then I have to say yes to every neighbor in that block. And I think that could turn into a whole different ballgame for turning into garages, because we don't have inspectors to come out a lot of times unless somebody complains that we have 15 carports and they all turned into garages. So I think you keep your yard nice. I think you keep your carport nice. I just think, for me, it would set a precedent in this area, and I won't be in favor of it today, sir.
Madam Chair.
Sorry. I've got a hearing problem. I don't get you.
And I apologize, sir. I probably won't be in favor of this today, sir. But Commissioner Drews?
Brittany, question for you. Are the numbers that we have in this correct now? So the front yard setback moved from 25 to 0 feet yet?
that would be correct. He can meet the side yard setback of 8 feet. One of the planners in the office did speak with Janelle Fink at Fisk Land Surveying, because he was originally going to go through the process to vacate that easement with the city of Rapid City, and decided that he could meet that side yard setback. So it would just be the 25 feet to 0 feet in the front.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
I too have an issue with this, not necessarily with this particular one, but I think if you open it up, you're going to have many more. that are gonna be doing the same thing.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner LaCroy.
I agree with both Deb and Gary. My concern is, you know, a lot of people put gravel on the side and park their campers and their motorhomes, and that's acceptable as long as the grounding's set for that. When you start doing carports in a residential such as this, it doesn't quite fit in, number one. And I've seen it. I mean, there's places that it does work good and some that it doesn't. And I have the feeling that if we were to allow this, we're going to get a number of complaints coming forward because I've seen them. So I mean, I thank you for moving it back further. I mean, you've done some work and done some research, and I think that shows your intent to work hard on this. But given the neighborhood, I can't approve this.
Thank you.
My response to that is, I think, you know, as long as you have manufactured carports will sit on there instead of, you know, just something cobbled up on there that there's nothing unattractive about it. I would be, you know, you consider on with the sides on it and everything and that on there that if there would be a big problem on there that just for an overhang on there, I mainly wanted to you know, keep the sun and everything, hail and whatever off the roof of the convertible. And then the wife says, well, you know, put sides on it, blah, blah, blah. You know how that goes. And anyway, so then I went ahead and did that. The other alternative on there, if it would be acceptable, I could move it so that it sets over the driveway with just the roof on top of it.
Just follow up.
Commissioner LaCroy.
Thank you for your honesty, because that's what happens with some of these carports is they start out because they come with just a kit like that. Then you put the sides on it, then you put the backs on it, and then pretty soon it doesn't fit with the stick-built homes in the neighborhood. I think, you know, in fact, in my neighborhood, down the street from me, you know, I've got a few people that have done that. Quite frankly, the one sticks out in my mind more than anything is because it just ended up becoming more of a collector of stuff than what his intent was started out to be. And as time goes on, that's what kind of happens. Different owners, different, so, but given the neighborhood that you're in, I just doesn't look like it fits in. And I'm afraid we're gonna get complaints continuing to come.
Madam Chair.
We do have a speaker request.
Sure.
Would you like to speak first?
All I was going to say is when I went out there, I drove around the neighborhood just looking for other carports. When I first saw this 2 meetings ago, I thought it was any mobile home park. And I thought that I'd see a lot more of them, but I didn't see any other carports in the neighborhood, and I guess I share the same concerns. You know, if we let this one, we're going to have to do the next.
Yes, sir. We do have a speaker.
Leader instead of a follower on start something new.
We can't fault you for that, but, sir, we have another speaker request, Kaylin Dringman.
That's on a different matter, ma'am.
Not 22, it's not the Board of Adjustment? Okay, I apologize.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Drews.
I'd make a motion to deny.
Okay, moved by Drews to deny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by DeSanto. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries.
No, I assume we gotta tear it down and get rid of it, apparently.
Ms. Ryan, talk to the planning department and they'll kind of give you either some solutions or you'll be tearing it down, but maybe some other solutions that would work for your garage area or something that would make a difference and still fit in with the neighborhood, sir.
Thank you then.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. So we have to move to go out of Board of Adjustment, please, by Drews.
Second.
Second by DeSanto. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next is the consent agenda. Item B and C, Ms. Brittany.
The Board of Commissioners uses a consent agenda to act on non-controversial and routine planning and zoning items quickly. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and vote of the board. Items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at the request of a board member or a citizen. The consent agenda for planning and zoning contains the following 2 items. Item B is second reading of rezone RZ 1917 and comprehensive plan amendment CA 1917 for David and Mary Grover, and approval is recommended. Item C is minor plat MPL 1945 for Dwayne and Margaret Gulkey, and approval is recommended.
Thank you. Is there any items from the public who wish to remove any items from the planning consent agenda B and C? At this time, is there any commissioner who wish to remove any items from the planning consent agenda for further discussion on B and C? If not, motion please.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Roskinek, second by Drews. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Regular agenda items D and E, please.
Item D is first reading and public hearing of rezone RZ 1918 for Gordon and Jennifer Sabo to rezone 40 acres from General Agriculture District to Limited Agriculture District. Planning Commission did recommend a denial without prejudice of rezone RZ 1918 with the applicant's concurrence. There was some miscommunication between a purchaser and the seller for where the lot lines were going to be, so they have resubmitted the application, so that's why we wanted to deny it without prejudice, so they were able to reapply.
Thank you. Do you have a motion to deny without prejudice, please?
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
DeSantos, second by Drews. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item E, please.
Morning, Commissioners. Jason Fennison, County Planner. Agenda item E is Major Planned Unit Development Amendment 19-09. The applicant is Donna Hartshorn. She is in the audience if you have any questions for her. She has applied to amend an existing planned unit development overlay district to allow for seasonal commercial recreation and amusement structures, to include a hovercraft track and a paintball range, and additionally to allow for 5 lighted on-premises signs to be located within 1,500 feet of the residential district and or dwelling. Reason description, the subject properties are labeled A, B, and C on the screen for you. Lot A consists of 4.38 acres, currently zoned highway service district, and has a 40-foot by 120-foot pole barn. Lot B is 15.39 acres, zoned limited agriculture district, and has 2 accessory structures on it. Lot C is 39.87 acres, zoned general agriculture district, contains a single-family residence, a detached garage, and 5 accessory structures. All have planned unit development overlay district that applies. All are located within the City of Rapid City's 3-mile platting jurisdiction. There's no special flood hazard area on the subject properties, and all take access off of a 66-foot wide platted access easement. The request was sent out for interdepartmental review, and 1 comment came back from 911. They stated, due to the number of existing address points and with this new use in mind, they suggest both the access roads be named and new addresses assigned. And this will be addressed as a condition of approval. During the January 27th, 2019 Planning Commission meeting, concerns were raised over the applicant's site plan and parking area. To address that, on the screen I have here for you the proposed hovercraft area. It's a sketch of what they plan to do there. This is on Lot A, should be this one here, which is zoned highway service district right now. And this is the farmer's market that's located there, the 40 by 120 foot pavilion, just to give you a reference point. And to address the parking concerns, staff has analyzed a half acre of land and determined that you can fit 55 parking spaces in there. The applicant stated that this is an acceptable place where they can park those cars and keep them off of the access easement. If any additional parking is required, they can utilize overflow parking on Lot B. With that, the majority of the properties in the surrounding areas, to include underlying zoning for Lot A, are zoned highway service district, which supports the requested use. Sign permits will need to be applied for prior to placing any lighted on-premise signs on the subject properties. And due to the amount of development and the need for more locatable physical addresses in the area during emergencies, the access roads currently in use will need to be named and addresses assigned. Pending any questions you might have, staff recommends approval of major planned unit development amendment 1909 with conditions.
Thank you, Jason. Can you,
Madam Chair.
go ahead, Commissioner DeSanto.
Only question I have is, when we were discussing this in the planning commission, the area in front of the barn, that was the neighbor's major concern, was that cars were being parked along that impeded the road out there, the easement. So I would prefer, frankly, if the parking is limited to the area to the south of the barn along that area, but not any parking in front of the building itself along that road. That's my only concern.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Drews.
can I address a question Commissioner DeSanto?
Yes.
Mark, you had, obviously, while you was sitting on the planning commission on this, you had a lot of discussion relative to this issue. Was there anything in particular
That was, one of their concerns was that, and I'm sure the gentleman will probably get up and talk about this, but they were hoping that Lot B wouldn't be, or Lot D, wait a minute, Lot B would not be developed.
Lot Charlie, sir, I can speak on that when you give me a chance.
Okay, great. But their biggest concern, one, was where is the lighting gonna go? Well, to my understanding, the lighting's primarily gonna be along the highway. It's not gonna be back where the residents live. And then that cars were being parked along that southwest side of the barn, along that easement, and some of them were actually being parked out into the roadway itself. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, would you like to come up?
Yes, sir.
And just state your name, sir.
Hi, Kalen Dringman. I'm the neighbor to the south of the Hartshorns there. I have 40 acres where my family and I live. We use that easement daily, driving, to and from our house. The easement is also used, for farm equipment, primarily during hay season, so that needs to remain open. I'm also concerned about, you mentioned it, the EMS being able to access in and out of there. I can say, life is full of goals. My goals 30 years in the infantry was to come back to South Dakota, retire quietly on an ag piece of land, and understand, my neighbors have a different goal. Their goal is to open up an amusement park. And that's okay. We can live hand in hand with that. What I am asking, though, is the way I understand it, they have Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie. A and B have already been developed. C, Charlie, is over where my house is. I'm asking that remains agriculture. I don't want something else going in there. Alpha and Bravo, I didn't have a say-so on those going in, and yeah, I suppose that's fine. They're there, and I'll do the best with them. What I am asking is that we keep the easement open. I'm able to get in and out, and I would like it to reflect that it is a 66-foot easement and not described as a 18-foot drive, I think is the way it's described. I think that's a big difference. To me, that is. Later on the loan, that might come back and, cause an issue there. So for those reasons, I'm asking you to vote no as it's proposed right now. I'd like to point out two final things. 2 miles up the road, there was a similar amusement park, and that couldn't make a go of it. And now it's sitting there an empty eyesore, all right? And then the other huge thing, I think, is out on Highway 16. I was invited to a planning meeting. There's big changes going on out there. It's a congested, dangerous intersection. And Department of Transportation right now is planning on blocking all those exits along Highway 16, and leaving just the one where it's coming off of Neck Yoke there. And that's only going to be a right turn exit there. They have a couple different ways they plan on doing it, but I would ask that this is held up until I think it's June is when they're making their final, well, it might not even be their final decision, but their next meeting on that. So if we could keep Charlie from being developed, keep that agriculture, keep my access open, and take a look at what the Department of Transportation is planning there, because it's just going to get more hazardous and more congested. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. Just one thing, Commissioner Drews, can we by chance have a continuance on this just to get a little bit more perspective of DOT planning and some other things on this property? I think it's best to know everything that's going to happen in the area before we decide that this is a pretty big, I'm not against businesses or what they're doing. I just need a little bit more perspective. The Hartshorns are used to me by now. The last time they did the pumpkin patch and some other stuff, I went out there and I wasn't in disagreement, just wanted to actually know the plan. So I would ask if we could have a continuance just to get the full, I can't say the word, perspective today on what's happening on this property.
Madam
Madam
Chair.
Chair, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mark. Oh, I'm just gonna say I'd like to do a site inspection myself, just so that I can really see what's going on.
Commissioner DeSanto.
As this gentleman pointed out, that final decision, been reading up on the DOT project as well, won't be made until June, which is obviously into the tourist season when these people would probably be like to make some income. But I'm in agreement with that. I think that we need to know what the DOT's plan is with those highway accesses, because if it's my correct understanding, they're eliminating any crossing over the road to head west on 16, but I didn't know they were eliminating exits off of the westbound lane going south.
Yes, they had several courses of action. One of them was to block all of them. I think I can't remember the gentleman's name from the DOT, to keep our exit right there where it comes out by their barn, the farmer's market, where we could make that a right turn only lane. I think they might go for that, but that wasn't even for sure.
Right turn from the east.
Yeah, so heading back north to town, but you wouldn't be able to make a left.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So a lot of stuff is up in the air, Deb, I guess.
Yes, bottom line is I'm not wanting to delay this till June. I just want, for me, as Commissioner Hadcock, just to look into maybe what is their plan in June or where they're going with it.
Right.
They probably won't have the full details. Also, I'd like to go out to that road again and then see some of the parking and how close the neighbors are and some other stuff out there. So I'm not against this project again, and I just would like to get a little bit more perspective, but that's just me, so the board has to vote on that.
Right.
If they want to continue. All right.
Right.
Board, any discussion?
Is there anybody else that want to talk?
Can I hear if any owners or not?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I would like to say my contact information is on that there, and I'd be happy to join you on the walk around.
Thank you, Karen.
So thank you.
And I apologize, the Hartshorns would like to come up and visit about the continuance if this board decides to continue. Do you have a problem with us continue it to come out to your place and give us the full perspective of this? Layout, come on up, ma'am. How are you, ma'am? You're used to me by now, aren't you?
I am.
Thank you.
Donna Hartshorn. I guess I'm a little surprised with all of that. But yes, you're welcome to come out. And I've invited any of you to come. So,
okay.
But please, let's don't delay it till June.
No. Our intent, if I'm correct, board, is to look at it the next meeting, if I'm correct, from this board?
Next meeting.
Right.
Okay. So we will come out to see you before the next meeting and see if Holly can schedule us a site visit and then put it on the next agenda item or the next meeting agenda,
Madam
if I'm
Chair.
correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
One quick question for you. Have you seen any of the preliminary plans from DOT relative to what the gentleman just talked about?
My son works for the city, and there's not been like, I've not seen like a site plan, but like into Happy Holiday, we have a turn lane that goes in. And yes, like where the farmer's market is, there is not a turn lane there. But if you just go like up to the next, there's a turn lane that takes you in. And then, yes, we have a highway service road here that there's,
right,
you know, for all the slow traffic, and you can sit there, you can take your time. I mean, I'm not denying that Highway 16 is not busy, because it is. But I think, you know, with the service road and things have, and the turning lanes, there's not been like wrecks out there in front. There's always been down at the corner at Neck Yoke.
Yep.
Follow up to that?
Commissioner Drews.
You heard Commissioner DeSanto talk about the parking. The parking on the, which direction was that?
Southwest side.
Yeah. On the southwest side? Do you have an issue with that if that's?
Well, like right in front of the building, I don't feel is a problem, because there is room way over. I mean, it's a pretty big area with some, I mean, and I'm not denying that somebody hasn't parked there, but it's only been maybe for just a little bit or something, and it probably was right when they came by. But to say they park, no. But in front of the building, yes, they do. And that parking at the end of the building, all the way over to the pumpkin patch, we've been utilizing for parking from the very beginning.
Well, Ms. Hartshorn, you have it as, that's why Mark's saying that, is you actually have it for, so legally they can park there. So he's saying that that parking with the parking to the right, which is to the south, will all be approved as parking. So no matter what, they could park there. He's just asking, well, I should quit talking for you,
absolutely.
Mark, but I guess I'm seeing his point. Just like I said, I need to go out there and look and then see Mr. DeSanto's and
Yes,
Mr.
you
Kalen's
come.
point, so.
Because the pumpkin patch needs all of that parking, and it even, you know, goes up further north, you know, sometimes.
Yes, ma'am.
So, but to say to park down that road, you know, like on both sides, no, they do not. But they do park on the side of the building. That is true.
Yeah.
But to say they're parked over here, they might have parked over here, but it isn't like for just a little bit of something.
Okay, thank you, Ms.
And as
Hartshorn.
far as farm equipment, you betcha, we all run farm equipment up and down that road, so we do keep it clear.
And that's an easement, ma'am?
Yes,
Okay, is it a,
not a road, it's an easement,
okay,
yes.
and it's not a section line or anything, Jason?
No.
Okay. And who gave the easement there?
We did,
That's what I thought.
gave it to Dreamers, yes.
Yes, ma'am. Thank
Okay.
you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner LaCoy?
Just follow up. You may see a white Dodge pickup coming out there. That's me.
Good, you come.
They're talking about coming together and going together. My hours don't quite match up, so probably after 5, 6, possibly.
We have lots of people who
Okay.
drive in and they turn around, I'm sure they're looking to see what I'm up to, and it's fine. There's, you know, and yes, I do right now. I put some hay bales down at that corner only because I was trying to get it off the field before winter come. So yes, they are on that right now, but that was because we've got calves in there we're, you know, feeding.
Yeah. One other comment I'd make when you guys go out there and take a look around, there's been some work with, like they said, the turning lane going off, so pay attention to that. I don't know what DOT's problems are, or plans are, but they improved it compared to what it used to be several years ago, and they did add lighting. So we do there is lighting there that never used to be there, so that's something to kind of take note of.
Thank you, Commissioner. And if you'd like to put him to work since he's by himself.
Yeah, do it.
After 5 will be fine.
Well, you're all welcome to come. I would be glad to show you around.
Thank you for letting
right.
us, give us a couple weeks. I know you can't really build anything in February anyway. So,
No.
yes, ma'am. So we appreciate it. Thank you. Do we have a motion to continue, please?
Move to continue
Moved by DeSanto,
Second.
second by Ross Connect.
to the February 18th
February
County
18th
Commission
meeting.
meeting.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. Thank you, board. Next, we have items from the public. Did we miss anybody who would like to speak today? We do have a weed and pest representative with Mr. Guffey that might want to speak. Maybe not today. Okay, I'm just harassing him. Next, we'll have executive session because of personnel, SDCL 1-25-2, annual department head evaluations, and then we do have a contractual pending litigation. So we have two things to go in executive session for.
Move to go into executive session.
Moved by DeSanto,
Second.
second by Drew. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. Thank you. All right.
Move to come out of executive session.
Second.
Moved by DeSanto, second by Drew. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next is a motion. John, do you have to read what we're doing, or Mark just? Mark, do you have a motion?
Well, I'm trying to find it.
Might need some
Right.
help, John.
I'm not finding it.
There you go.
Oh, okay, very good. So I would move to place Scott Guffey at grade 23, step 8 on the Pennington County pay scale for a biweekly pay rate of $31.7360, effective March 8th, 2020.
Motion by DeSanto,
Second.
second by LaCroy. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Any other discussion?
Move to adjourn.
Moved by DeSanto, second by Ross Connect to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries.